Hello, I am Fernanda Paiva, Hitchhiking Stars, and bringing you, as usual, some insights for the lunations this month. So let's talk about the full moon in Libra that's happening on the 12th of April. So 12th of April, we have this full moon. It's a very important one. It's the first one after eclipse season. So I think we're all still navigating eclipse season and the changes that have been brought up. Some astrologers talk about eclipse season having a last effect, really staying with us for about 6 months. So we'll have a lot of time to digest and integrate the changes that we've experienced in the month of March. But this full moon is obviously, because it's a full moon, is a combination. And this combination has something to do with the new moon in Aries, partial eclipse that we had at the end of March. So we're still very much attached and connected to that new moon, to that eclipse season. So as usual, let's have a look at this chart. So let's have a look at the full moon chart, what major aspects will be happening, what they can possibly mean, how can we best navigate these energies, but also have a look at the Sabin symbol for the 23rd degree of Libra. So for the 23rd degree of Libra, in this Sabin symbol, we've got the imagery of a butterfly with a third wing on its left side. So a butterfly with a third wing on its left side. Now, I can't help but think that symbolically the left side is connected to a more receptive side, is connected to receptivity and femininity and creativity, as well as inspiration, intuition, spirituality. So it feels almost like this full moon will be giving us an opportunity to get that third wing as well, right? Wings. I mean, if we think about wings symbolically as well, they are connected to flying, right? Flying, moving, reaching for the stars, reaching for the sky. So there's something about that potential for flying higher, achieving greater heights, getting in touch with a bigger perspective, getting more attuned to our intuition, to the third eye, etc., through the energy of this full moon. So this is one of the first things that I thought when I saw the Sabin symbol for this full moon. Now, another thing that I brainstormed about is uniqueness. So the third wing being connected with uniqueness, being different, or choosing the unconventional path as well. Something about transformation, which a butterfly always has a connection to. So healing, transformation, and rebirth, which is one of the key elements that we think about when we see a butterfly from a symbolic point of view. But healing, transformation, and rebirth, that's also very unconventional, right? We have chosen an unconventional path, and we're going through a process of healing that's connected to that as well, with the 23rd degree of Libra. And obviously, as I've mentioned before, a sense of a spiritual connection. I think this is also very powerfully ingrained, connected as part of the big energy that's going to be released during this full moon in Libra. Now, that's the Sabin symbol, and that's what the symbol for that specific degree is telling us. But we can also think about Libra, right? Libra and Aries. So the sun is in Aries, the full moon is in Libra. So we're picking up on that axis of Aries and Libra. The two ends of this axis become very important. Now, Aries and Libra has a very strong connection to how we relate. It is the axis that's very concerned about relationships, with Aries being the sign of who am I when I'm alone, and Libra being the sign who am I when I'm with others. So the exchange and the ability to see ourselves through the eyes of another. So it really is that duality between individuality, self-reliance, independence that Aries represents, with interdependence, Libra at best, or codependence, Libra at worst. So those themes will also be very, very strongly weaved into this full moon. So anything connected to relationships, imbalances in our relationships, inequality in our relationships, this is going to be under the spotlight. The card, the major arcana card connected to Libra is justice. So really using the justice card to tap into where we can invite and embrace balance in our lives can be really interesting, powerful, empowering right now, right? Looking into the scales that the justice card is carrying, or is depicting in that imagery, can really help us reflect where can we use that balance right now. Where can we implement more balance? Where do we need to reclaim more balance and equality and harmony in our lives? And also questions on, are we sacrificing too much of our individuality in order to have balance? That would be some of the shadows of Libra. Or are we too further into the more selfish spectrum of Aries shadow? So where are we with this? What sort of end of the spectrum we are, or maybe we are in the middle, and that's great for the sense of balance here that this full moon requires from us. So the Libra Aries axis will always be talking about relationships. Now, the other very, very important thing that we find in this full moon is a very strong connection to Chiron. So not only we've got a full moon Libra and we bring that Libra Aries into the picture, but also the sun is very much forming a partile, and by partile I mean a very exact conjunction to Chiron. So Chiron is really closely involved in this full moon. So the sun is at 23 degrees Aries, and Chiron is also at 23 degrees Aries. So Chiron is really featuring in this full moon. And again, that really resonates with the Sabian symbol and the butterfly, the sense of uniqueness, the unconventional path, the healing and transformation, the rebirth, the connection to spirituality as well. All of that is clustered around the symbol of Chiron. So Chiron is really connected with our wounds, how we wound, and also how we heal. So all of that is clustered around the symbolism of Chiron. So during this full moon, we can experience one of these three dimensions, or all of them at the same time. We can realize where our wounds are. We can realize how we're wounding others, and also how and where to begin healing. Where is the healing? Where is the elixir of healing in the situation as well? And because Chiron is in Aries here, we're emphasizing wounds, and we've been experiencing this already for a few years. We emphasize the experience of wounding or wounds in the autonomy, in the individuality, in the sense of independence, and the courage to be ourselves, to do the things that we want to do, to not be apologetic about that, right? That's Aries, is having that courage, whilst Libra is including other people in decisions and potentially falling into people-pleasing patterns. Aries is about going for it without asking anyone else's opinions, without caring about anyone else's opinions. So there's something about wounds around these that we're going to be getting in touch with, that we're going to be aware of in a very powerful way. There are few planetary placements here that I also really want to mention, that they deserve a mention here during this full moon. One of which is a square that the full moon is doing to Mars, and Mars being the planet that rules Aries. So we've got the gist here. Mars is ruling that sun and that Chiron in Aries. It's in Cancer and is forming a square to the moon in Libra and the sun in Aries. Now for me, that emphasizes the Chiron in Aries, the sense of wounding in assertiveness. How do we assert ourselves? How do we say no? How do we set boundaries? How do we protect ourselves? But it's still making sure that we're keeping things balanced as well, that we're not going overboard on one end or the other. So Mars is being involved in that. Now Mars can bring a bit of a volatile energy to this full moon. And what I would suggest to navigate this full moon is to sit with the discomfort. Whatever it is that shows up, take note, write it down, acknowledge, but try not to do anything too drastic with this energy. Because when we go through a full moon or a planet going retrograde, we might feel really inclined to take action, to say something. But the reality of it is that sometimes we regret. We're under extreme pressure and we don't feel quite the same anymore. Full moons can be wonderful for pointing out stuff. So when we feel something very dramatically, that's telling us something. That's pointing something out. So use this energy to acknowledge any hurts, any woundings that are connected with relating and relationships, and how you balance the give and take. Yes, so this is really, really under the spotlight. Now, another important mention here for this full moon is that we still have a strong Piscean energy. This is going on. The whole March has been going on, and most of April we're also going to have that emphasis between Aries and Pisces, and these two very odd energies together. One that's all about transcendence, sensitivity, the feeling of being interconnected, and the other one that's all about action taking, individuality, separateness. So with Pisces here, and why I'm mentioning it is because Venus, the planet ruler of the moon in Libra, so the planet ruling the full moon, is in Pisces. So we've got Venus retrograde in Pisces, conjoined Saturn, very close to Saturn, which is also very close to the North Node in Pisces. So we've got quite a few planets here together. Mercury is not too far as well. Mercury is at 28. The North Node is at 27. Saturn is at 25 Pisces, and Venus is at 24 Pisces. And the interesting thing here as well is that Venus will be turning direct right on the day after of this full moon. So we could really, really get some revelations about the state of our relationships. But not only the state of our relationships, but also our values. This is one of the key things about Venus, is a connection to our core values. And I say that again and again, a life worth living is a life that's built based on our core values. So decisions that are made based on these core values, right? So finding what they are is so important. And during this full moon, we can definitely have a glimpse at these values and what's important to us. So Venus being almost turning direct, exalted in Pisces and conjoined Saturn as well, is telling us that this is something we need to take seriously. And some of the healing and some of the way out from the conundrum of the opposition between Libra and Aries will be compassion. Compassion, forgiveness, self-forgiveness, self-compassion as well. All of that. That's being emphasized. Creative work, rituals, spirituality can really help us during the intensity of this full moon. So that's it. This is what I had to share with you. I hope you have a wonderful full moon, that you can embrace and celebrate your uniqueness and unconventional path, and that you can find healing, transformation, rebirth through your spiritual connection and make the most of this energy. So take care, lots of love, and I'll be speaking to you all soon.